If the 70s were an era of change, the 80s were a decade of budget tightening and economic plight for schools. Proposition 13 forced program cuts and thousands of teacher layoffs.
Prop 13 passed in June 1978. I remember it well because it was the day I was sworn in as president of my local chapter. I can remember being very, very happy, and then it was just dark.
And we slipped from being up in the top 10 in the amount of money we paid per student down to sometimes clear down the bottom.
We were very, very desperate. And so the compromise was SB 813. It infused a huge amount of money into the public schools. It also increased the number of days that teachers taught. But CTA was the one that pushed to make sure that with the longer day, longer year, there was the money to go with it.
In 1988, CTA rescued public schools by drafting and passing Proposition 98, the state constitutional amendment which guaranteed at least 40% of the state budget to K through 14 education.
Every decision that affects a classroom is fundamentally a political decision. For us to effectively represent the interest of teachers, we have to engage in political and legislative activity. There is no way to address the factors that teachers are dealing with in the classroom without representing them in the bodies that make those decisions. That's what we do in this department.
Good morning, Council.
State Council is a group of teachers who are elected to speak for the needs of teachers. It sets policy. It also determines which legislation we will support, which legislation we need to oppose. The 30-minute duty-free lunch, which is now part of the Ed Code and has been part of the Ed Code for years, was a motion from the Sacramento City Teachers Association that moved its way through State Council and became legislation.
So we've increased salaries, we have health insurance, we have vision insurance, we have dental.
It was because of CTA that we have kindergartens. It was because of CTA that teachers enjoy duty-free lunch. It's because of CTA that we have our due process rights that teachers have.
A second-year teacher near Bakersfield was the center of a landmark decision which established the rights of probationary teachers to participate in union activities without fear of retaliation.
I was a journalism teacher in McFarland School District, and I had a student who wrote an article about negotiations. And the superintendent called the school about why are those students writing about such a subject. They didn't want to come right out and do anything illegal like tell me, no, you cannot print it. But they were trying to put pressure on me so that I would do it. And I didn't accept the pressure, and so I just printed it. And it was all within just a couple of weeks that I had my evaluation and I was terminated. It was really traumatic. It's devastating. It was hard on my family too. My youngest son wanted to be the editor of his junior high school paper, and his teacher told him, we can't have any radicals like you be the editor of your school paper. Yes, it was interesting when we went through the court process, the superintendent testified. He says, our children in McFarland can't write, so they shouldn't have had a newspaper anyway. I did regret doing it. That year I was out of work. It was very, very difficult. And then my own children were feeling the effects of it. However, both of my boys are school teachers now, and they certainly know that they better be strong union members so that they'll always have some support if they should ever get in trouble as well.
Here's a bright idea. Let's allow anyone who can round up 25 kids to open a voucher school.
CTA solidified its position as a political force when, with the help of a massive media campaign, it overwhelmingly defeated Proposition 174, the voucher initiative.
Sound like a bright idea.
That's when California realized the political clout of the
CTA.
Crowded schools.
About the mid-90s, we decided we need to let California know that we have the largest classrooms in the nation.
Public schools now have larger
And
classes.
we went back to our commercials. Our theme was "No child can succeed alone."
No child succeeds alone.
And the people start saying, wait a minute, I didn't know we were having these kinds of problems in public education. You need to do something about them, Governor Wilson. And all at once, Governor Wilson started listening and hearing. And he said, you know what? That's my issue. I'm going to reduce classes. And everybody in the world took credit for class size reduction. But we knew it was the California Teachers Association.
Last Christmas, I got a Christmas card from a young lady who now lives in Florida. She wanted me to know that she still remembered a class I taught at Hamilton High School. Something that was said or done in that class had made a change in her life, and she wanted to thank me for what had happened in my class some 30 years ago. So I was very touched by that. I know we talk a lot and we're concerned about salaries and retirement and fringe benefits and teacher militancy. But when you come right down to it, you have a chance to touch the life of some young person. And there's nothing more important.
A century ago, the high school graduation rate was less than 3%. CTA and public schools were in their infancy. Today's graduation rate has escalated to more than 83%. The 21st century will bring challenges, but CTA will continue to lead the fight for real educational reform. It will fight to improve working conditions, to involve teachers in all decisions that affect the classroom, to give first and second year teachers due process rights. It will strive for adequate education funding and the resources to make our schools the best in the nation. And CTA will fight for the 6 million kids who depend on teachers. Why? Because teachers make the public school system work.